Do you want to tell me where you have Luther Burden? Don't tell me. Let me ask you. Is he at 5 for you?
He's at 1.
Shut up. No, he's not.
I wish I said that too. I couldn't even know. The ball is on the 25-yard line. It is 1st and 10. Welcome in and welcome back to the show. I'm your co-host, Cade, and that is your co-host, Metro. Today, we're doing our wide receiver rankings, our top 10. We're going one by one, each player, all the way down the board, Metro's board, and mine as well. Metro, how are you doing on this fine day?
I am doing fantastic. We have each 10 wide receiver rankings. We've done a lot more than just 10, by the way. These are just our favorite of those 10, or of those however many we've done. I've done almost 20. How many have you done?
20. Should we do 20 today? No, I'm kidding.
No shot. I'd be wildly underprepared. Like at number 20, Travis Hunter. I got him.
That'll do. Yeah.
Yep. Great video. But
Awesome.
No, we don't have. We're just doing our top 10 today. And what we're going to do is we're going to do each. I'll do my 6 through 10, and then Cade will do his 6 through 10. We'll kind of talk about them, and then afterwards we'll do our 1 through 5, and then talk about them. So, who wants to go first with our 6 through 10?
It's a great question. I think I will start because I started this show by yapping, and I think it's only right. I'm going to go 6 to 10, so down in order technically. At number 6, I have 3, 4, 5, 6. At number 6, I have Jack Bech.
Ooh.
At 7, I have Tre Harris. At 8, I have Elic Ayomanor. At 9, I have Isaiah Bond. And then at 10, I have Pat Bryant.
Interesting. So, could you repeat that for me?
Yep, you got Jack Bech at 6, Tre Harris at 7, Elic Ayomanor at 8, Isaiah Bond at 9, and then Pat Bryant at 10.
Oh, interesting. All right. So my 6, I'll do 10 through 6. So my number 10 is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Number 9 is Elic Ayomanor out of what college do you go to? I'm blanking. Stanford. Jack Bech at 8, Tre Harris at 7, and at my number 6 I have Luther Burden.
Ooh, okay. Pretty low on Luther. I like that.
I like Luther Burden. We'll get to him here in a second as to why I have him at 6. But do you want to start us off with, you have Pat Bryant on your top 10. I don't have Pat Bryant on mine. I didn't even have him in my top 13. It was around 14, 15 for me. So do you want to start us off with Pat Bryant?
Yeah, totally. So for perspective, all these guys are on a tier for me. I have multiple tiers. I just love your adorable cat.
Yeah, I know.
Getting tossed on the sky.
Yeah, just getting tossed.
Getting ragdolled. Get out of here. We're talking about wide receivers. I have all my guys in the category of their own tier. I have Bech, Harris, Elic Ayomanor, and Bond all in their own tier. Pat Bryant kicks off my C tier. That's why he's down there. But Pat Bryant, he is like prototypical X wide receiver on a discount in my eyes. He gets open pretty well. He catches a lot of the things thrown his way. He's got a low drop rate of 1.8% and a pretty damn good contested catch rate of something. I don't have it on me right now, but I know it's higher than average. I just like what he is as an X wide receiver. I know what I'm getting on draft day when I draft him as well. And that's just kind of where I stand. He's a really good X wide receiver. I like the value.
And then I also do not have Isaiah Bond on mine. He's a little bit closer. I have him just slightly outside of my top 10, but would you like to talk a bit about Isaiah Bond, and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts on him?
Totally. So Bond is an exceptional athlete who just hasn't quite put the polish together, and that's the way I can summarize it in one line. Bond, you see glimpses of him running awesome routes and creating exceptional separation. He just hasn't done it consistently. The hands show flashes of being something special, and then it's back to usual. He just hasn't put it together yet. If he goes to a really good wide receiver coach in a good system, I could see it working out for him. But I don't think if he didn't put it together at Texas, I'm just being real. I don't think he's going to miraculously put it together in the league unless it goes to a really good system. That's just kind of where I have him. But I do love the talent you have in Bond. You can't just find that anywhere on day 2 of the draft or even day 3.
Yeah, true. So I have, for my full list, of course, I have 10 is Kyle Williams, but man, I consider so many different names at number 10, and Isaiah Bond was one of those guys I did consider. Bond had a disappointing 2024 season, and I'm speaking as a Texas fan, so I can give you first-hand experience. When healthy, the dude was out there balling. He was actually, early on in the season, putting together quite the nice season, but then he had an ankle injury. And then you just saw some things on tape you don't want to see from your supposed number one option. Like, it just kind of felt like as the season went on, he got a little frustrated with his role, which, to some extent is understandable, but Matthew Golden kind of passed him up on the depth chart. And so by the end of the season, I mean, he was hardly even in the rotation. As an athlete, the dude is legit. It's unfortunate that he's going to get roasted because of his combine, how he was talking about breaking Xavier Worthy's, and then what did he get, like a 4.4 at the combine, which was like,
I really don't care what he got. Like, the film speaks for itself.
Yeah, he is a very, very good. He's like a track runner. He moves very nicely. It's just the small nuances to route running wouldn't necessarily say are his pros per se. With that said, the ceiling is there, right? He has shown glimpses of what he can become. Hands are typically pretty good. He moves very nicely. He's just, like I said, it's just the nuances, the understanding of how to stem his route a certain way, how to, to get a defender off your back. And against press man coverage, he's just not able to get off it too often. So I have it outside my top 10 just because I just don't know what he looks like as a route runner at the NFL level. And I'm sorry if you're not a good route runner. I don't see you being good at the NFL if you're just pure speed. But again, that speed is legit. So I think there will be a team that does take a flyer on him. So I like Isaiah Bond. You have him at your number 9, so that checks out quite nicely. So I'll talk about Kyle Williams here because
please, I want to hear about him.
I frankly, I didn't think when I was doing my review, I initially started off at my very first one was Kyle Williams because I was like, don't think he'll be in my top 10, but I just want to check it out just because I want to make sure 1,000%, because some people were talking pretty highly about him. Some had them at their 15, 12. I've seen as high as 11. And I was like, man, this dude Kyle Williams is extremely interesting. And then I watched the tape, and we talked about Isaiah Bond and how he is a speedster. That's exactly what Kyle Williams is. Kyle Williams, kind of like what I did with the quarterbacks. I talked about pros and cons for each one. Kyle Williams, I put his pros as he's a great athlete. He tracks the ball well when it comes to the deep ball. And with the ball in his hands, yards after catch, he's dynamic. Some of his cons, shorter arms, smaller hands, doesn't have a big frame, and he had some concentration drops, which are, I don't think they're a product of him having small hands. I think a lot of them is just due to lack of concentration. With that all said, the dude is a freak athlete. Anything underneath, anything in the short game, like he's going to dominate. And deep ball wise, like he can do that as well. And I think he's not afraid to get physical with with corners when it comes to trying to make contested catches. Not necessarily his forte, but he definitely can do so. And again, I just look at, some of the other names that I was looking at, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, but I just kind of feel like Kyle Williams is a bit more of a complete package player who just needs to put together a couple things, such as not dropping the ball as much, maximizing what he has with his speed, athleticism, yards after catch. Route running right now, I wouldn't say is a strength of his, but it's also not a con. He's there with it. It just, at times, I think he needs to sell his routes a bit better. Cuts and breaks, move around a bit more smooth. So I put Kyle Williams in my 10 because I think he has ceiling to be a really solid wide receiver 3 with the potential to move up to be a second option for a roster. So I got Kyle Williams there, which, again, I watched him first, and every single time he was kind of like, okay, are they better than him? And each time I said, no, he's not, or just barely. So I like Kyle Williams a lot. So did you get around to watch much of Kyle Williams, and what did you think of him?
Dude, no. So, Kyle Williams, I got 20-some dudes on this list. He was the one cat that I did not get to. So, when I've seen him on some of these guys' lists, and I'm like, who the hell is Kyle Williams? Am I a casual? I've watched over 150 damn people, and I haven't seen Kyle Williams. So, thank you for explaining that. But when you say it like that, it makes much more sense. Yeah,
really solid athlete. A lot of people didn't really watch him because of, it's Washington State, but I mean, him and I want to say, was it John Mateer was the quarterback last year for Washington State? I believe John Mateer, now right. Oklahoma guy. Man, they put together some magic. So I like Kyle Williams. I think the best way now we can move forward is by talking about Elic Ayomanor, who you have at 8 and I have at 9. So we're kind of seeing him pretty similar to each other.
Totally. Would love to. So let's kick off with Elic. Elic is, if you recall the game he had a year ago, he played Colorado. And in the first half, he catched nothing. And in the second half, he caught 200 yards, had a handful of touchdowns. He had a hat trick and won the whole thing in OT. Now, Elic, that just showed a glimpse of the kind of wide receiver he can be. He is a large, physical human being. He is 6'2", 210. He was hurt his freshman year, so he had an ACL and he came off it. showed instincts of really high IQ and awareness, really good technique. He runs really good slant routes. I don't want to call him this, but because it's kind of a bad term, but he was kind of slant boy, like Michael Thomas there for a year or two, but he was really damn good at the slant route. So he separates just enough. That's not a superpower. And then also, he's got really strong hands in traffic. I like what he can do in his frame. He's also a very good blocker. I think he goes to a physical football team, and they will love what he brings to their wide receiver room as a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. I think he fits on a lot of good rosters like that. The upside is there. This is just me. I find it harder to paint the picture for upside when there's not speed involved. I'm weird, though. Like, if it's just physicality, I think that only takes you so far. But Elic's an exception just because there's so much of it, and there's so much experience there. And he doesn't mind sticking his face in the fans. So I like Elic and what he can be. And also, he just brings a really good base to your team. His floor, feeling at a good spot for me.
Yeah, I kind of see him pretty similar to you. So for my pros, I put great size, good speed, solid against press man coverage, solid in run blocking. Some of his cons, I put ball tracking. He has some drops. And against man coverage, he had a low separation percentage or low separation rate. Those are all kind of things that kind of dwindled me on him. I think the bottom line for Elic Ayomanor is he's a smart player, moves quite nicely. I think his route tree is a little bit underrated. Like, he can run a lot of different routes, understand some nuances that other wide receivers in this class, even ahead of him, don't quite understand to the same level. Just think, I would like to see him track the ball better. There was a lot of occasions where he just misread a football midair, and
Totally.
That sort of thing, to me, isn't going to fly at the NFL level, especially when you are as big as him. I think his ceiling is a very quality wide receiver 2 next to a really standout wide receiver 1. I don't think he'll ever be a true go-to number 1 option, but his floor is also like a really decent, well-sized wide receiver 3 that you feel pretty confident in creating separation and playing alongside a tandem of other guys. Like, he will have an NFL role. He'll be taken probably on round 2, maybe round 3 at the latest, and he'll be worthy of the pick. He's built really nicely, moves very well for his size. And again, because he understands some of the nuanced things of route running, I think it does give him a pretty solid ceiling and a pretty solid floor. So I like Elic Ayomanor quite a bit. Just have him at 9 because I think there's a bit more of higher upside players ahead of him here. So you have Tre Harris at 7. I also have Tre Harris at 7. So do you want to do Tre Harris or do you want to do the Jack Bech conversation? Because you have him at 6 and I have him at 8.
I want you to kick us off on Jack Bech because I like his game a lot.
Jack Bech is a fascinating prospect because you just don't see too many slot receivers built like him. Like, when I envision a slot receiver, I envision Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, I guess Luther Burden, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. I envision somebody who's a bit more of a smaller speedster guy. I don't really envision Jack Bech. Like, Jack Bech is a fascinating player because he's a big, lengthy, almost like tight end like guy.
Yeah.
Who plays the slot. Now, he's not a fantastic athlete. I put one of his pros is that he is a big slot receiver, very sure hands, moves well for a slot of his size, and he's good at finding space in zone coverage. I put for his cons, I said he's just an average athlete. He doesn't really do too much in terms of nuance to his routes, but he doesn't really quite have to, nor did TCU ask him to do a whole bunch of it. And I said because of that he's not the greatest separator in man coverage, but in zone he's extremely smart and can find the holes in the zone to sit in there and wait for a quarterback to reach to him. I think Jack Bech is one of those dudes who, if he understands what he's good at, which is just being a go-to target, a reliable option for a quarterback, he's going to have a long tenure in the NFL. Like, if I'm Jack Bech, I'm going in there and doing exactly what Cooper Kupp's doing. Like, I'm becoming best friends with the quarterback. I'm going into meeting rooms with Matthew Stafford or whoever might be his quarterback and just making sure that they see eye to eye, because if they do, like, this dude could legitimately be a dude who maybe never is like a top player at his position, but is just going to be a consistent go-to option. I think his ceiling is one of the better slot receivers out there. I think his floor is maybe somebody who gets phased out because he isn't the greatest athlete. So maybe he'll be a starter for a few years, and IQ, spatial awareness, those sort of things, sure hands will get him so far. I will say, I don't think he'll ever be considered like a top 10 receiver or anything like that.
No.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, again, I have him at 8 for a reason. I don't think, full transparency, I don't think most of these guys will ever be anything like that. But for Jack Bech, I mean, I could see him becoming one of the better slot guys in the league. I love his game. I love his size. Again, he's just, how big is he? 6'2", 215, and you look at that and you're like, oh, that's a well-sized outside wide receiver. Go win a jump ball. Go play some 50-50 games. That's not what he does. He doesn't have the speed to burn past you. Now, this dude he's more like, and I don't want to make the comparison to a tight end because he's not a tight end, but he's more like Kelsey than he is like Jamar Chase. So kind of just keep that in mind. That's what I thought about Jack Bech. I like him a lot. You have him at 6, so you like him a little bit more. So what do you have to say about Jack?
Just a tad more. As a wide receiver, you got to get open and catch the football. And while Jack Bech doesn't get open at a high rate, he gets open just enough to make a window for football to fall into his arms. And no matter what the traffic or what the scenario, the dude just kept catching the ball. Like at the Senior Bowl, there were 2 guys, Tez Johnson, Jack Bech. When they lined up, they were getting open. And if they weren't open, they were coming down with the football. And Bech was the standout above all. And, when you watch somebody do that against guys like Azareye'h Thomas, Maxwell Harrison, time and time again, they're just cooking everybody at that field. You have to respect him. The dude's got game. He's probably the MVP of the Senior Bowl. Maybe not of the whole thing, but definitely in top 5 contention. And when you perform at the Senior Bowl, it shows you belong in the league. And I think he's going to do really well, just like you said.
Yeah, I looked this up. Jack Bech actually played, like when he committed to TCU, he actually committed to be a tight end.
Ooh,
so it actually does kind of make a lot of sense with his game because he plays the position almost like a tight end, but he's only 215 pounds, so he's a very undersized. Like tight ends are, like close to Levin's considered an undersized tight end. He's like 245. So Jack Bech is about 30 pounds less than that. Granted, he looks a bit more like well put together, so he might be a little bit higher than 215, but and we talk about him as a slot guy. I think he does have some level of versatility to move around and play, X, Y, and Z to play off all 3 positions. I just personally think he's better suited playing in the slot, But again, even like a Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's more of a slot guy, you will see certain reps where he plays on the outside, and you'll see the same sort of thing with Jack Bech. So I just think a really solid player that you kind of know what you're going to be getting. It just kind of comes down to, like, is he ever truly going to be, a go-to option for a guy? And again, he's smart, just needs to understand some nuance and work with the quarterback and become his best friend. And shoot, 5 years down the line, we'll be talking about Jack Bech being one of the steals of the draft if he does that. So I like Jack Bech. Let's move on to Tre Harris, who we both actually have at 7. So this one kind of works out nicely. I talked a lot about Jack, so do you want to start us off with the Tre Harris conversation?
Yeah, of course. Tre Harris is, and I would mean this in the nicest way, Tre Harris is not my prototypical wide receiver when I'm looking at scouting. Tre Harris, insanely productive, great 50-50 balls, just a bigger than you kind of wide receiver. That's his tape. He's bigger, stronger, got a little bit of scoot to his game, but he doesn't separate. And you have to separate in the NFL, and that's what just caps my potential for him. I mean, you look at this guy's stats. He had 1,000 yards. He had 7 touchdowns. And in the previous years, he had 8 and 10 touchdowns. He's had about 25 touchdowns over his career. All he does is produce. I just don't love the way he produces because he doesn't separate as much as I think he should. And with that being said, I can only rank him so high. But at the same time, the dude plays so dang well. I got to put him in the top 10. And that's kind of what I think Tre Harris is. I think the floor is insanely high. I just think the ceiling and the potential with his athletic ability and separation it's like, I know what he is. You know what he is. A wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 4 on an NFL roster for a good handful of years. And that's just kind of where I see him. What about you, Metro?
Yeah, so I see him in some ways similar, but I think he has a little bit more potential to him. For his pros, I put good size, moves really well, a deep ball monster. Like this dude just consistently at Ole Miss was just making plays. Like everyone knew Tre Harris was going to go deep. Like Jackson Dart was going to throw it deep, and they couldn't stop him. Like that's all that he did basically. I also put that he changes his speed well in routes. Like sometimes you see receivers who really slow down when they're doing breaks or doing certain cuts or trying to move in their routes. That doesn't really happen with Tre Harris. Like he consistently moves at the same speed every single time. Some of his cons, I said his route tree was limited. I think a lot of that was due to Ole Miss's system, but I think in some ways that was also just kind of because Tre Harris is a little bit raw as a route runner. He also dealt with some injuries. Kind of back to route running, I said he doesn't quite understand route running nuance. Again, some of that is on him. Some of that is on Ole Miss and their system. And against press man coverage, you're just not going to see him. Like right now, his release package is a little bit limited. So I think the bottom line for Tre Harris is when you have his level of size, speed, and just potential, I think you have to take a flyer on him. Now, again, the route running stuff is a legitimate concern because he wasn't asked to do a whole bunch at Ole Miss. Like, Ole Miss is a system that just works because it's designed to work. Like, it's a bizarre system that the quarterback first read option, like, he's not going to do a whole lot of progressions. And oftentimes the first read was go deep to Tre Harris, even if he's in quadruple coverage. And there were times where Jackson Dart would still throw the ball in quadruple coverage. And sometimes even one double coverage, Tre Harris would still come down with the football. That's the type of guy that he is. With that all said, at the NFL level, that is not going to fly for starters. Like, no team is going to throw it up into double coverage deep down the field, even if you are as talented as Tre Harris. So he is going to learn, or he's going to need to learn how to become a better full route tree runner. Like, he cannot just sit there and run, go balls or deep posts. Like, he has to learn how to run an effective slant, how to run an effective comeback route, those sort of things. But, man, I view him as a bit of a project player where, man, if you sit him down with a really good receiver coach, put him behind a really solid receiver one, like, if he is able to maximize his physical abilities and his athletic profile, then I think Tre Harris has a really good future. It's kind of why I have him above Jack Bech, because I do think Bech is a much safer player, much, much safer. But I just view Tre Harris as somebody who has a little bit more potential to him. And me personally, I like outside receivers more so than I do with slots. So because of that, and because Jack Bech is a bigger slot, I had to move him down just a smidge because of that. Whereas for Tre Harris, I prefer the longer, athletic, downfield stretcher on the outside. And that's kind of what I view with Tre Harris. I think, bottom line, look, first couple years in the NFL, Tre Harris will be nothing more than a go ball guy. But if you give him 2-3 years to develop some routes and grow as a understanding the nuances, and I think he could be a solid player. So I have Tre Harris at 7. You have him at 7. I think we've talked about all you're 6 through 10. So I guess that leaves you with Luther Burden.
I was gonna say you got to talk about Luther Burden at 6. I got to hear this.
I want to ask you where you have him at, but I'm gonna wait on that one. So
yeah.
Do you want to tell me where you have Luther Burden? Don't tell me. Let me ask you. Is he at 5 for you?
He's at 1.
Shut up. No, he's not.
A voice crack said that too. I couldn't even know.
Okay. Is he at 5 at least? Is he at 5? No?
No.
Okay. Don't say anything else then. All right, I'll talk about Luther Burden, and then when we get to our top 5, you can talk about why you like Luther Burden and why I'm an idiot for hating Luther Burden and everything that he stands for. Or maybe I'm an idiot.
So go crazy. Do your thing.
Look, man, there's a lot to like about Luther Burden. I was not a huge fan of what I saw this past year. So he's the only player that I basically only exclusively watched their 2023 film. Just because, man, 2024 was rough for Luther. Not just him as a player, but the entire team. Like, I didn't think Luther was particularly, not the same guy that he usually was. But there was a certain level of, it just felt like I was watching a different player in 2024 compared to 2023. Not just the player himself, but also the way they used him. 2023, there was a lot more times where I saw him playing on the outside, but this year it was basically felt like exclusively from the slot. And I just felt like Luther felt the pressure of being somebody who he doesn't have to be. It felt like Luther wanted to put on excellent performance every single game to kind of put Missouri on his back. But it just didn't work out for him. Not necessarily because he's a bad player. It's just because the team itself struggled entirely. I think this is what I put for his pros, and I think Luther Burden's ceiling is fantastic, by the way. So I put pros, good athlete, playmaking skills, yards after catch. I said maybe he has some versatility because of his ability to play on the outside in 2023. His cons, I put poor blocker. I said he had some drop issues in 2023 that he fixed up in 2024 in some ways. I'll give him that. I said his routes were a little inconsistent, and as an outside receiver, he's just a little bit limited. With that said, bottom line, Luther Burden is a fantastic player who you get the ball to. He can take a 1-yard catch, turn it into 15 yards, and he's that well after the catch. Slot fades, everything from the slot he can do. I think he has some level of versatility. What holds me back is that 2024 tape where just felt like it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was rough. There was rough moments for sure. I just felt like it was like watching a different player, right?
Yeah.
Emeka Egbuka was the same guy every year, right? Tre Harris, or maybe more like Elic Ayomanor, was the same guy every single year, right? Or if not the same guy, slightly better version of what they were the year before. Luther Burden felt like a discount version of his 2023 self, even though you still saw glimpses of that insane movement skills, route running ability. Listen, I like Luther Burden. I have no issue with him going in the first round, even maybe above some of the guys in front of him on my personal list. It just kind of happens to be that I like the floor and I like the potential of what certain players in front of him can become. So, that's how I feel about Luther Burden. That's why I have him at 6.
I love that. And I mean, you encapsulated it perfectly. Do you want me to talk about him or wait until I discuss where he's ranked to talk about
Yeah, let's real quick, let's recap our 6 through 10, and then afterwards we'll hop into our 1 through 5. And so my 6 through 10, at 10 was Kyle Williams, 9, Elic Ayomanor, 8, Jack Bech, 7, Tre Harris, 6, Luther Burden, and your 10 through 6.
And then for mine, it was at 10, we got Pat Bryant, 9, Isaiah Bond, 8, Elic Ayomanor, 7, Tre Harris, and 6, Jack Bech. And then now we're in the top 5. Do we want to go? I think we just rip the Band-Aid off, right?
Well, first, if you guys don't know, me and Cade both make YouTube videos on our own channel. So if you guys want to check it out, you can check the description below. Cade makes great NFL draft content. He's on a spree right now, so make sure you guys check it out. Those videos are awesome. And then I make videos basically every single day. Not every day. Sometimes I take a day off because daily content is difficult, but I try my best. And I make all sorts of NFL analysis videos. So check us out. It'll be in the description below. Let's peel this Band-Aid off. I guess who went first with their 10 through 6?
You went first last time.
All right.
Actually, no, I lied. I lied. I went first last time because I was yapping first, so it's you.
Okay, so, all right. My number 5, Emeka Egbuka. My number 4 is Jayden Higgins. My number 3 is Matthew Golden. My number 2 is Tetairoa McMillan. And my number 1 is Travis Hunter.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, so Travis Hunter is a weird one where I guess now would be a good time to kind of talk about it. I did put Travis Hunter as a receiver because I think he will at least at some level play receiver. If you think that Travis Hunter is a corner, which I totally understand, I did want to give you guys 3 more names that you could potentially pluck in at 10, and I feel like all these guys are really similar. Jalen Noel, slot guy, really nice player. Jalen Royal is possession receiver. Isaiah Bond, we kind of talked about him a bit earlier at number 9. So any of those 3 guys could have filled in at 10 if you want to claim Hunter as a corner. So just want to kind of throw that little caveat at you. So, Cade, what is your number 5?
Elite list right there. My 5 is going to be Jayden Higgins. My
Okay,
4 is Emeka Egbuka.
Got it.
My 3 is Luther Burden. My 2 is Matthew Golden, and my 1 is Tetairoa McMillan. No Travis Hunter. If I had to put him on this list, I am going to put him 1 on above all these wide receivers. I don't see a world where he's a primary wide receiver. So that's why I didn't do it. But I think he's an awesome wideout if he gets a chance to be.
That's totally fair. So I guess we could just start off with your Luther Burden conversation here, and then we could just kind of go down the board here.
Totally. So when you bring up Luther Burden, like you said, in 2023, you saw an athlete, right, who had good top-end speed, super great burst. In 2024, the burst was still there, but the top-end speed, he wasn't quite separating, which is concerning. And initially, he was getting kind of shades of Malik Neighbors. When you take away that speed, he doesn't quite look like Malik Neighbors. Like that happens, that changes real quick. I describe Luther as if Batman decided to play football because he brings a force to that run after catch ability. You throw this guy a ball in the bubble, he's running through somebody's face. I love that kind of aspect he gives your offense. Now, the separation and the top end speed is a concern. That's why I lean towards a guy like Matthew Golden at 2 rather than having Luther Burden at 3. So Luther showed flashes of what he could be. I imagine in the league he's going to bring his A game. He ran a pretty good 40 time at the combine. Then again, I don't value combine times. I value film time and what that looks like in their real speed and how they run in pads. If Luther's his 2023 self, I have him at 3. If he's 2024, I got him where your ranks, Metro. So I'm just taking the upside. I liked what Luther Burden can be in an offense. I do also think he's going to be extremely scheme dependent. We saw what happened at Missouri when he didn't get used the correct way, or just he didn't have the talent around him to get used the correct way. And he didn't fulfill like he did in the year before. So I think if he goes like the Cowboys, awesome. If he goes to the Jets, here we go. So there's there's different scenarios here. Yeah, if we got Fields throwing him the ball, and that's what disrespect to Fields, it's just the system he's in. I'm not loving it. So there's a lot of bust potential here, but the upside's too much fun for me and Luther Bird in the third.
Yeah, I feel like with Luther, it's kind of a situation where if he had just sat out 2024, there's a good chance he probably goes top 10. But because of what happened in 2024, and I think in some ways defensive coordinators in college football sort of figured, and I don't want to say figured out Luther Burden, but found ways to counter Luther, which Luther and the coaching staff at Missouri just were never fully able, at least not consistently, were able to find ways to counter back. So it happens at the NFL level. You see it all the time where quarterbacks have sophomore slumps, where a quarterback will have this incredible rookie season and play like unbelievably well, and then for some reason the second year they don't play as well. Typically it's because the opposing defensive coordinators figured some area in their game where they're a little bit weaker at. And I think that's kind of what ultimately happened with Luther Burden. So your hope for him is that he goes to a team that can work out any kinks into his game. And we talked about a couple, again, for me, saw some drop issues, poor blocking, inconsistent with his routes. I also felt like he was somebody who, when the ball wasn't consistently going straight for him, like whenever he was asked to do something that wasn't going to him, it just felt like his effort wasn't as great, which I don't personally love. And we'll talk about that with another player that I had an issue with, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But if you want to go ahead and move on now to talking a bit more about our top five, do you want to do the Higgins conversation or the Emeka Egbuka conversation?
Let's do Higgins and Elic first, and I'll hand it off to you, then you close on those two. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Jayden Higgins, ex-wide receiver prototype. My man, let me pull up the actual statistics right here. I believe he's 6'3". Oh, I got it right here. Higgins is 6'4", 214, 22 years old, had an exceptional final year. You talk about everything you want in your ex-wide receiver. Great route running, great catching, money hands, elite athlete. He had an exceptional combine, one of the best combines that I say anybody there, if I dare say that. He did a great job. He's like a pack-a-punch Xavier Hutchinson. He was there a couple of years before, and I like what he brings. Now, I say all these great things. When you hear all this, it's like, why don't you have him higher, Cade? That's kind of my internal battle, okay? You hear all those things. He doesn't really have a strong weakness. I just think all his abilities are like B+. Really good. Like, don't get me wrong, like really good. They're all B+, but just there's no superpower. There's nothing taking me over the hump for him, and that's why I'm not going to move him any higher. But I think he's he might be the safest floor to maybe all these guys besides Emeka. I know what I'm getting. He's such a good wide receiver, and I love what he brings to wide receiver. And like, there's so few ex-wide receivers in the league anymore. He's a thing of value, and he could go fast on day 2 of the NFL draft. What about you, Metro? What do you think about Jayden Higgins?
All right, so when I look at Jayden Higgins, I mean, 6'4", 215, moves very well for his size. I feel like you can learn a lot about a person when you ask them about Jayden Higgins. If you ask them, do you like him? Do you hate him? You can kind of learn a lot about them and how much they watch film and how much, Because I think some people, I think some people they're like, oh, he plays for Iowa State. It's like, I don't want to watch Iowa State film. They're not a good team. It's like, no, dude, this dude can actually legitimately ball. When you look at like the top 10 receivers, there's a number of receivers on this list who I don't think are traditional outside guys. Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, Jack Bech, even maybe in some ways Kyle Williams on my list, and Isaiah Bond on your list, and several other players. Jayden Higgins is a true go-to outside receiver. Like, you're not going to ask him to be in the slot. Against 6'4", moves unbelievably well. For his pros, they put size, speed, good route runner, can run basically every single route. He works well against press man coverage, and he has really solid hands. I put for his cons, I said, doesn't quite have a second gear to him. Like, he's never going to be who's got an elite second gear to them? Jamar Chase has an elite second gear. Tyreek Hill. Those guys have a second gear. Yeah, Neighbors. Those guys have a second gear they can go to when they need to make a big play, right? Jayden Higgins doesn't quite have that, but I don't think it's going to hurt him too much. I also put he doesn't have a sudden stop ability with his routes, and I put yards after catch wise, because he doesn't have that second gear, is a bit average. So basically everything up to the catch point, he's fantastic at. But once he catches the football, a lot of times he's just going to go down and be a bit more of a possession guy, which, that will limit him in terms of productivity. And again, that I don't think it's a serious issue, because I think he's a willing guy after the catch. It's just, I think that might stop him from becoming that true number one guy because he's never going to be elite after the catch. But getting off the press, getting into his routes, nuances, catching the ball, like he has all that down to a T. Just kind of comes down to the fact that, once that ball gets to his hands, he's just not doing a whole bunch with it. So I love Jayden Higgins. I view him as one of the few outside receivers. He's one of the few standout guys. And I don't really hear too much like first round buzz for him. But frankly, if you take Jayden Higgins first round, maybe top 25, like if you take him anywhere after pick 18, 19, I got no issue with it because I love Jayden Higgins. Do you think he can ever be a true like wide receiver one, or do you think because he doesn't have that second gear that he's a little bit tapped out at a really good number two option?
I think he totally could be a wide receiver one. Now I have to clarify. Wide receiver one means top 32 wide receiver in the NFL. That's what I'm referring to as wide receiver one. I'm not saying CeeDee Lamb type of guy. So to answer your question, yes, but he can't be. Sorry, I don't want to limit anybody in their life, but based off his traits, I don't see him being a superhero star of a wide receiver, but he's going to be damn good.
Yeah, perfect. So, I have Higgins at 4, you have him at 5. Do you want to start off the Emeka Egbuka conversation? Or I guess because you started off with Higgins, I'll start off the Emeka.
All day, yeah.
So I have Emeka at 5, you have him at 4. So we kind of see Higgins and Emeka very similar to one another, just one spot each off. Emeka Egbuka is one of the smartest, most nuanced receivers in this draft, but he's a little bit physically limited. So I put for his pros, I put good size, extremely intelligent, understands the details of route running and yards after catch, can create space in both man and zone coverage. I put for his cons, he's nothing more than an average athlete. I think did he run at the combine, or I don't think he ran at the combine, but I know at his pro day they say he ran like a 4.45 or around a 4.5, something like that. So that's totally fine for being straight line speed. I've always kind of felt like when I was watching him that he always felt a step slow, right? When I was watching him again, maybe I'm watching with blinders on and some people see him differently, but when I was watching him, I always saw him as being just a smidge slower than other receivers in this draft class. Like Luther Burden has genuine top tier speed that I felt like Emeka was missing at times. So I think that can limit him as a downfield receiver. I also put average in and out of breaks and cuts, and I put he can struggle against physical corners or sometimes linebackers playing in the slot or physical safeties. So those are all issues from him. I do think he has versatility to play inside, outside, all over the field. It's just that because he's not the greatest athlete, I don't think you'll ask him to do too much as an outside receiver because typically outside receivers, you want a bit more faster options. But, man, I just think Emeka Egbuka is extremely, extremely safe. Like, I know what I'm getting out of him, and that is a unbelievably solid to great number two option. And for some rosters, I think he could very well become their go-to option. A quarterback's dream is to have a dominant slot that can consistently get open. And that's exactly what you're getting with Emeka Egbuka, who, by the way, we talked about Jack Bech being a big slot. Emeka Egbuka is right there with him, 6'1", 205, so 1 inch smaller, 10 pounds less. So he's kind of in the making of a bigger slot receiver. But from my personal point of view, I always thought that Jack Bech looked a lot bigger than Emeka, but numbers don't lie, I guess. So that's how I saw Emeka. What did you see in Emeka Egbuka?
I think you hit the hammer on the nail. Emeka Egbuka, okay. I already told y'all. If they get open and they catch the football at a high rate, I love them. I don't know what it is with Emeka Egbuka. Like, I respect the hell out of his game. It's just not sexy. He's not quick. He's not twitchy. But he just keeps producing year and year again. I think he holds like the most receptions at Ohio State or something like that because he's been there so many years. He just broke some record. With that being said, you do that at Ohio State, that says monumental things about you. He's going to work in the league. He's going to be at least a strong wide receiver too, wherever he goes. He's going to be a fantasy PPR machine, let me tell you. That's all I really got to say. He gets open, catches the football. It feels kind of like if Amon-Ra St. Brown had a little bit less speed, like the dude's just going to find his way open and pulling the football. And that's just, it is what it is. There's no sex appeal for me. And that's why I can only put him here, the dude's number 4 on my freaking board. But he's an awesome wideout. You know what you're getting. And some team, like you said, like you mentioned earlier, Luther Burden, 2024 had a lot of questions. It's just, why is this happening? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't it look like 2023? I'd much rather, if I'm like, my job's on the line, let's just take Emeka Egbuka, just clean our hands off and go to day 2 because we know what we're getting. Our quarterback's going to love him. No questions on any kind of attitude or effort issues. Love what you get him. Love what you get in this player. High floor and ceiling is like, you usually go floor, ceiling. I think it's right here. We know exactly what he is. He needs to go in the NFL and do his thing.
Yeah, this is, I mean, for context in terms of why we were talking about him not being like a diva or anything like that, like this dude was playing Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith. Like, could you imagine being he's a senior or a junior, so a 3-4 year guy at Ohio State, and you've been productive basically ever since you've been there. And here you are, this is supposed to be the year you're the number one option for Will Howard. And then this young freshman steps in, Jeremiah Smith, and then all of a sudden he becomes the number one option. Like a lot of receivers out there would have transferred or would have complained. But Emeka Egbuka never made a single complaint, just put his head down and worked. And even though he's not going to be a top 10 pick, more than likely, like I could easily see him going top 20 or just outside of the top 20. Like he's going to be a first round pick. And whatever team gets him, like he is an extremely safe player that has potential to be a wide receiver 1, but also can play wide receiver 2. And I mean, you just don't find players this safe in the NFL draft too often. And I just think Emeka is that safe of a player. So if a team like Houston were to take him, if a team like Dallas were to take him, or the Jets, whoever, they're going to get an absolutely fantastic player that can do so many things for an offense. I also think as a run blocker too, he's not too shabby either. At least he's a willing run blocker. So that's what I thought about him. We can talk about Matthew Golden because he's next up at yours number 2, and I have him at number 3. So do you want to start off the Golden conversation?
Would love to. Matthew Golden, when I look at wide receivers, I have a prototype I'm obsessed with. That is Matthew Golden, okay? Twitchy, explosive, pretty damn good top speed too. He gets open, he's like 7'11", okay? Great separation. The ability to catch the football, not just like this, but over the shoulder, okay? He tracks extremely well. The acrobatic ability. He had a catch against Georgia that was ridiculous. Ball goes up, catches, spins in the air on his 2 feet, and he's running off to the races. That's not normal. That's not human. It's alien-like. And Matthew Golden's got the goods. I just like what he does. He gets open, he catches the football. He's got a good amount of athleticism to his game as well. And I just like the upside you get in Matthew. I think he can truly be, I mean this, not everybody says this, I think he could be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. He has that upside in my opinion. Maybe I'm extra high on him because he's a little bit smaller and maybe I shouldn't do that. But I don't think size really matters for wide receiver. But I think getting open and pulling the football down does. And some quarterback is going to be like, oh, I throw it in his direction. He's going to come down with it every single time. I'll do that as much as I want to. So I love what he brings to the table. Please go to a good team, Matthew Golden, because you deserve it, brother. And if he does, the sky's the limit, Metro. Metro, what do you think about Matthew Golden? Because you're a Texas guy, as we can see on the wall. I'm obsessed with him, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so, of course, being a Texas fan, I really just primarily focused on his time at Texas. Prior to this, at Houston, as a receiver, didn't really do too much there, but really at Houston, he was more of a punt returner, kick returner guy. Did a couple of things for Texas in the return department, so that kind of does showcase some of his athleticism, but don't think he'll be doing that too much at the NFL. For his pros, I put extremely dominant route runner, understands the nuance of it, solid hands, especially when you're talking about those jump balls, contested catches. Like he just, for whatever reason, just plucks it out of the air, it feels like every time. And kind of going back to the route running, I said he understands nuance, and he's a really solid mover for 6 foot 195. Just moves very well. Straight line speed, I thought was also pretty good, especially at the combine. We kind of got to see it, though on tape. I think it's maybe not always showing, and I think that is one of his cons. For his cons, I said he can improve against man coverage, especially at creating separation. He had some blocking issues, and when I was talking about Luther Burden, when I was discussing sort of the focus with plays that weren't going to him, Matthew Golden was also somebody who, when the play wasn't going to him, it's like he just didn't care, right? If it was an RPO that was supposed to go to Isaiah Bond, like it just felt like Matthew Golden didn't really care too much, which I personally don't like. It almost kind of felt like, and I don't want to speak this into into truth or anything. This is just my sort of theory, but I kind of feel like it was pretty similar between Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden. I don't know if those guys liked each other too much, because it kind of felt like both those guys were competing to be the number one option. And then once Bond got injured, it kind of allowed Golden to get reps. And then once Golden became the de facto first option, it kind of felt like Bond stopped caring. So kind of weird. just sort of that dynamic between those players. I don't want to spring that into existence. So just kind of throwing it out there as a potential idea. But good size, moves well. I do think he has upside to be a go-to number one option, but I think is probably better suited as a second option or on a roster where he can be the number one guy, but their number two guy is extremely good as well. In terms of some destinations, Dallas, you put him next to CeeDee Lamb, the Jets with Garrett Wilson, the Packers, we've talked about that before with Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and those guys. Like just spots like that where he can play really next to dominant other receivers. Like I think if you put Matthew Golden on a roster with other bad receivers, I could see Matthew Golden struggling a little bit because I just don't know if he's going to separate against man covers like that, against more traditional cornerback ones. But if you put him on a roster where he can be a second option and then grow into becoming the first option, like I think Matthew Golden can be fantastic. We'll also say the last thing I'll kind of leave you off with Matthew Golden on is that he really only has like one great year against elite competition with Texas, and it was kind of like all towards the back end of the season. Like first half, he made some great plays, but it was like it was kind of spotty. Like great play here, nothing for the next 5 minutes. Great play here, nothing for the next 50 plays. But man, down the stretch after that Bond injury, like he kind of blew up out of nowhere, and that just kind of tells you how good he was later in the season. Where I mean, once it became clear he was the number one option for Texas, and Texas was down some running backs, down some receivers, like he stepped up in a big way and improved his draft stock and earned himself a good amount of money. So that's how I saw Matthew Golden. I think we kind of saw him pretty similar to one another.
For sure. And then I think it's about time. We are at our top two. We have Tetairoa McMillan and, of course, Travis Hunter. I was just yapping about Golden, so I think I'm going to toss you McMillan, and also you can close with Hunter. And then I'll touch on those too. But talk about the best two wide receivers in this draft, Metro. You have the floor. It is yours. I want to hear about their game.
Yeah, so Tetairoa McMillan is such a fascinating player. And I think there's a couple of reasons why. Now, I will say this. I don't think McMillan's a perfect prospect by no means. I think there's a lot to his game I like. There's also a lot of things that I don't like about his game. The discourse on McMillan, though, is a little bit interesting and kind of funny to me. Like, a lot of people hate McMillan because he's like 6'5" and doesn't play like he's 6'5", which I think you just kind of have to get over at some point. I put for his pros, I put good size, good speed, a yak monster. Again, kind of going back to 6'5". You don't hear 6 foot. He's 6'5", right, or 6'4"?
He's 6'5". He's a grown man.
6'5". You just don't hear 6'5" guys who are yak monsters, and that's exactly what Tetairoa McMillan is. You kind of think yak monster, you look at like Luther Burden, who's 5'11". That's not the case. Ted McMillan is a yak monster at 6'5". I also put for being 6'5", he's a solid route runner, which again, 6'5", you just don't really traditionally see. Like if you're 6'5", you're supposed to be, a headhunter. But in terms of like Tetairoa McMillan's cons, I said he doesn't play to his size, which we kind of talked about. Being 6'5", you expect him to be a headhunter, be a contested catch guy. Not really his game. I also said his 2023 tape, for me, was better than his 2024 tape. He's one of the few players where I went back and watched both years because I heard some people say that 2023 was a little bit better. For being 6'5", he struggles versus press man coverage, and I said a lot of his catches were of the contested catch category, which you don't really want to see, especially you want to see a bit more separation. Now, don't quote me on this, but I believe that he had an ankle injury this year, so I think that did hurt his game a smidge. I just think a lot of the discourse around him is that people want him to play like he's 6'5", 200 pounds when he doesn't play like he's 6'5", 200 pounds. So I think in an ideal world, and it kind of works out in this year's draft class where a lot of the teams that need receiver already have other good receivers out there. So you look at the Cowboys with CD, the Jets with Garrett Wilson, even the Panthers to some extent have some guys like Xavier Legette who do different things than Tet McMillan. But McMillan is somebody who you want to have on the outside. You're not going to have much versatility with him, but I look at his game and it's so unique for his size, but I just think the talent's there, especially with that 2023 film that I found to be just as good, if not a little bit better than 2024. But man, you just don't find too many guys who move as fluid as he does at his size, who can run routes pretty damn nice as well. So I like Ted McMillan. Again, the discourse around him is, kind of lower on him than maybe the media is because, he's 6'5". Why isn't he Calvin Johnson 2.0 or somebody like that? But he's just not that guy. He's more, who's a
not
decent
that guy,
comparison
pal, not that
to
guy.
him? No. What would you say is a decent comparison for McMillan, like in terms of play style? Like he's more Devontae Smith than he is AJ Brown, if I'm being honest with you.
He is. Yeah, exactly.
Which is terrible.
You can't
it's
put
bizarre.
him in a box, and that's what people don't like about him.
Yeah, you can't just like when I think of 6 foot. If you said, all right, take the player out, take the pace, take everything about him off. If you just tell me, hey, you're gonna get a 22-year-old receiver who's 6'5", 212 pounds, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, I'm throwing bombs his way. This dude's AJ Brown 2.0. I'm getting Calvin Johnson. But then you say, oh no, he's actually not that great at 50-50s. He can, but he's actually more of a yards after catch guy. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like you just don't see it too often, but he's dang good at it. Admittedly speaking, he has some bad moments, and I think they say a lot of his productivity is only within about 4 games, but some of that could also be, the Arizona team in general was significantly worse than it was the year prior. So I think you kind of have to take the good and the bad with what you saw from him. So how did you see Tet McMillan? Because I think we probably see him pretty similar to one another.
We do. Tet McMillan you can't put him in a box, like I said earlier, like we were both describing. He's a yak guy. He had 29 forced missed tackles. But then you're also throwing him deep bombs, and he's got about 18 contested catches. But it's not like he's not going to box you out, okay? Like he can contort his body and pull the ball down. And he's also 6'5", which helps. So he's rangy. Throw the car in a 2-car garage. He's coming down with it. You can't just put a label on him, and that's what's weird about him. Now, is he separating at a super high rate? No, not everybody can do that at 6'5". I get it, but he moves exceptionally well, like you mentioned. He's fluid. He's explosive. He's pretty explosive for his size, and I think he's a really well-rounded wide receiver who's 6'5" and is like sneakily good. In like Luka or why am I forgetting his name? Luka and Jokic, they do like the uncle thing where they're like pretending to run and like they're pretending they're tired and they're like like I feel like that's Tetairoa McMillan in his game. The next thing you know, he's like bouncing around, sliding across the field, getting open, one hand on the catch. Like that's just he looks like an uncle out there just doing his thing. And the next thing you know, he's ripping off a 40-yard run because you just think you thought you could tackle him really easily. He's hard to game plan for because he's so unique and can do so many things. And I think when he goes to a good system, it's wraps for the league. I think he's going to be really, really good. Now, if it's just him and that's it, that's it. You can get in some problems. A physical corner will give him some trouble. But that's all I fear. And if you have a good coordinator, it shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. Tetairoa McMillan is a rare asset you can get in the NFL, and if you have a guy like, I don't know, Bryce Young trying to develop, I think he'd be really helpful for your quarterback's development because he could just throw the ball up, and he's not going to necessarily box the guy out, but he's able to adjust the ball, pull it down, and hell, maybe we're throwing him bubbles too because he's really good after the catch because apparently he's like that. That's all I got to say about Tet. He's a rare combo, dude. He's a unique wide receiver.
Yeah, I could just see a hypothetical world here where there's going to be a team that takes a flyer on him, and they're going to get this guy out in space. He's going to go out there, make a guy miss. Man, you're going to have some safeties who are just going to be terrified to tackle this dude because you don't see too often 6'5", 212 that run as fluid as he does that can make you miss from a juke, make you miss from just pure size. Like I could imagine like these like slender cornerbacks that are long and lengthy but not the greatest tacklers. Like they're going to have a truly hard time against Tetairoa McMillan. The only cornerbacks out there that are really going to be able to give McMillan actual like legitimate problems are like big physical rangy corners like Ramsey. I could see Surtain giving him a lot of fits as well, but man, if you take McMillan, if he falls past top 10, like there's going to be a team that gets him that probably already has another good receiver, and it's going to be extremely difficult to game plan around, one good receiver, but also a second good receiver like McMillan who's 6'5" and runs like an ox. Like it's going to be really interesting to see what team he does go to. Go ahead.
Who's the best landing spot for him? I have it in my head.
I have a few in my head.
Rattle them off.
Jets.
Okay.
The Jets with Garrett Wilson. The Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb. The Broncos and the Chargers, I think, would also be great fits. But I think, like you were kind of alluding to, the Dallas Cowboys, like, bro.
It doesn't
put him
get
next to CeeDee Lamb. Like, for full transparency, every team would love to have Ted McMillan. But in terms of like what team needs Ted McMillan, it's probably the Dallas Cowboys, and the New York Jets would also be in that conversation too. The Cowboys and the Jets have nothing outside of their star, but so desperately badly need somebody next to him. And McMillan would be so perfect next to CeeDee Lamb. Lamb in the slot, who can also flex out to play outside, can do some gadget things. And then Ted on the outside, who can do some stuff deep down the field, but so can CeeDee Lamb. For Ted, man, just everything else that CeeDee Lamb's already excels at. Like, you're going to have two guys who excel after the catch, very well sized. And actually, funny enough, I've actually heard the Cowboys are extremely interested in Ted McMillan. So I think we got to make it happen. Ted,
got to make it happen.
I think we got to make it happen. Got to make it happen.
You don't even need a wide receiver. I need it. You don't even need a wide receiver in that offense, dude. It could be me or you out there. Like, they're going to do their own thing and handle it all. Like, Tetairoa McMillan and CeeDee Lamb got this thing on lock.
I mean, the wide receiver 3 right now, actually, funnily enough, they would actually, if you get Ted McMillan in there, they would have Kevontae Turpin, who's their punt returner, kick returner, who runs like a 4.3.
That's pretty cool. Just
undersized, but put him on a seam route. He's a willing catcher. I mean, Tolbert's also there, but he's all right. He's more of a blocking guy, well sized, good culture fit. You like the guy, but
yeah, that's right.
He ain't cutting it. But I think we should end this off with the Travis Hunter conversation. Now, you don't have Hunter on your list because you view him more as a corner. But if you were to have him as a receiver, would you have him number 1?
No question about it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter is a freak of all freaks. For transparency, he's my number 1 ranked player in the entire draft class. You have him number 2, so we're talking about blue chip of all blue chip prospects. Like, Travis Hunter is that guy. And he's not just a blue chip prospect at one position. He's a blue chip prospect at 2 positions. If he decided, hey, I'm going to do receiver full time, he'd be the number 1 receiver. If he said, I'm going to be corner full time, he'd be the number 1 corner. You just don't see that too often. With that said, I put his pros are legitimate playmaker who moves extremely well, lengthy, well-sized, makes the difficult look unbelievably easy. For his cons, I put slider frame, a little bit thin, a little wiry. He could struggle against physical press man coverage corners, which a lot of receivers who are of his size typically do. And I put for his last con, I said he might just end up playing corner. So that kind of puts a wrench in things at the receiver position. But he's only 21, 6'1", 185. He's just one of those dudes. I don't think I've ever seen a receiver do the things that Travis Hunter does. I can't. He was going up against NC State. It's one of his best catches of all time, where he is smothered, completely smothered. The corner is basically tackling the dude at this point, and Travis Hunter contorts his body in such a way where his body is facing the sideline, but his upper body's facing the quarterback, and he catches. It's some of the craziest things you ever see. Like, some of the catches Travis Hunter makes are unbelievably ridiculous. Now, I will say, because he quite literally goes for everything and puts his body out there, like, he takes some hits and some big shots. And I could imagine Travis Hunter going up for a contested catch and a guy like Ramsey just putting his shoulder into his rib, and Travis Hunter's out for the year. I could see that happening. I hope that doesn't happen because Hunter's fantastic. Last thing I'll say about Hunter is, because he does play corner and receiver, I'm a little bit worried about his longevity. So I think it would be smart for Travis to just pick one position and maybe do some things on the other side, like pick receiver but play a cornerback in only certain packages on defense. So I love Travis Hunter. He's my number 1 receiver. And frankly, if I was to do it in tiers, it would be Travis Hunter 1A, Ted McMillan 1B, Golden, Higgins, Emeka, Luther 2 is my second category, Tre, Jack, and then Elic at probably the 3rd, and then everyone below him at 4, with Kyle Williams being the top of the 4th. So that's kind of how I would do it. But Travis Hunter, if I could take one Travis Hunter and just have him play both sides, he's just, I don't even have the words to describe some of the things that he does out on the football field. You just don't see players move like he moves at 2 different positions, and also have the nuance that he has at both positions. He is nuanced as hell at corner, But he also is pretty nuanced as hell as a route runner. Sometimes maybe a little too much. Like he could do a little too much in terms of route running. But
TikTok route.
he had a route that I saw at his pro day that was a terrible TikTok route. I was like, dude, what are you doing? But I'm like, hey man, you're gonna be the number one pick for or top 3 pick for a reason. So I can't really be complaining. You keep running those TikTok routes and making crazy plays on the field. What do you think about Travis Hunter? Obviously, you view him as a corner, but as a receiver, I mean, it's pretty clear what he is.
No, I think that if it was truly he could actually pick it, I think it'd be more fun for him to be a wide receiver, and I think he'd potentially be a better wide receiver. Like you said, no one moves like this guy. Maybe he doesn't have Deion Sanders burners at 4.2, but he moves exceptionally well. He's plenty fast, and what it is, it's the burst. The burst and explosiveness and the twitchiness is on. Did I smack my mic? Hope you're doing okay.
You're good.
is unworldly, okay? So he moves exceptionally well. His route running nuance in his second year and his next year at Colorado and how he looked, this guy was up the line taking his cornerback skills and applying it on the line of scrimmage. I think it's a route against, I forget which team. Point is, sets this dude up, doing his thing, doing his TikTok route, right? But it's actually physical this time. He's doing it for real. Guy shoots his hands, clubs it over, wide ass open, and of course he's faster than him. When he translates his cornerback skills into wide receiver and can use that against them, you're talking about unlocking a superpower most people don't have. And then, so he gets open, right? He's a freak athlete. And then just anything you throw his way, he's actually coming down with it. It's absolutely insane. The hand-eye coordination is otherworldly. Traffic, 50-50 ball, it does not matter. Travis Hunter is pulling it down. With that being said, for my tiers, it goes Hunter in my elite tier, so by himself, Tetairoa McMillan and Matthew Golden in the next one, Luther, Emeka, Jayden, and then I got the rest of those cats we talked about earlier. So I think he stands on his own. I love his game. If he goes full-time wide receiver, it would be awesome. Can't even lie.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about his yards after catch. Like, when you get this guy the ball, he just makes dudes miss, like, so easily. There was a reason why he was a 5-star, number 1 ranked guy. And he went to Deion, of all people, and it felt like it kind of paid off, right? Where
completely.
He gets to play with Shador. I mean, could you imagine if he had played at Florida State, where he was originally committed to? And sure, 2024 would have, or 2023 would have been pretty fun, but I don't know if he ends up going top 3 because of how bad they were in 2024. Like, even if Hunter was no, he's not winning a Heisman. He's not even coming close to it because the team would be. I mean, with Hunter, maybe they're 1 win better. Like, let's be honest, Hunter's that good. But,
yeah, Hunter's a beast. Yeah,
there's no quarterback that's going to throw him the football. So
that's right.
Him ultimately picking Colorado and trusting Deion Sanders and his vision, probably the best thing that could have ever happened to him. And I don't really know if there would be too many teams that would actually have let him go full-time at both positions. Like, I would have seen a world where Florida State just viewed him as a pure corner and just kept him there. And maybe he would have been a really good corner, but shoot, he could play other position at both sides, and I think he's on his way very well to being an all-pro player as soon as, like, year 1. So, yeah, I love Travis Hunter. Fantastic player. Not too much more to be said about him. So, do you want to recap your list here?
Would love to. We'll start at 10. At 10, we got Pat Bryant, 9, Isaiah Bond, 8, Elic Ayomanor, 7, Tre Harris, 6, Jack Bech. And then 5, we have Jayden Higgins, 4, Emeka Egbuka, 3, Luther Burden, 2, Matthew Golden, and 1, Tetairoa McMillan. Hunter I have in cornerback land. And then Metro, go ahead.
Travis Hunter for you is at 0.5. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
Yep. So my list at number 10 is Kyle Williams, 9, Elic Ayomanor, 8, Jack Bech, 7, Tre Harris, 6, Luther Burden, 5, Emeka Egbuka, 4, Jayden Higgins, 3, Matthew Golden, 2, Tetairoa McMillan, and number 1, good old Travis Hunter.
Awesome. Guys, look at our rankings. Take them in, process them. How would you rearrange it? What would you change? What did you love? What was on the money for y'all? Drop it in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, if you take 2 seconds out of your day, if you like the video, it helps us out a bunch. Thank you very much. We're doing NFL content all year long, NFL content in general as well. Go subscribe down below for more content just like this all the way to the draft and far after. And then, of course, Metro's got his own content on his channel. Go check it out in the description at Metro Sports. I got mine as well. A little bit subpar compared to Metro's, but all stuff NFL draft as well at Cade Rathbone. Thank you guys for watching. Can't wait to see you guys next week, and we're looking forward to the NFL draft. Y'all have a great day. Metro, get us out of here.
Thank you guys for watching, and peace.